Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming tonight. This is our weekly Transcendental Love Feast. And we'll have one more bhajan and then begin our pravachan. And I want to thank Radhika Gopinath. Here, wait a minute. Bolo Ram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 Patita Udarana, Jagajanatayana. Patita Udarana, Jagajanapatayana. Patita Udarana, Jagajanapatayana. Nitya Niranjana Sitaram. Bolo Ram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 Dasarata Nandana, Sura Muni Vandana. Dasarata Nandana, Sura Muni Vandana. Dasarata Nandana, Sura Muni Vandana. Jaya Tapakandana Sitaram. Bolo Ram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 Jagasukha Karana, Jagajana Palana. Jagasukha Karana, Jagajana Palana. Jagasukha Karana, Jagajana Palana. Sanatana Jivana Sitaram. Bolo Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Bolo Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Mangala Karana Satya Sanatana Mangala Karana Satya Sanatana Mangala Karana Saguna Niranjana Sitaram Bolo Ram Jai Jai Ram 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 Amahi Pavana Atimana Bhavana Ramahi Pavana Atimana Bhavana Ramahi Pavana Atimana Bhavana Nara Narayana Sitaram Bolo Ram Jai Jai Ram 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 Govinda chale aao Gopala chale aao garlands for her daughter-in-law.
With the shawl?
Yeah, that lady with the shawl. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. 1 minute. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Prabhupada's garland and give it to her. We're going to give you a garland for a turkey.
Just tell her, we're going to give you a garland for turkey. Okay? Mala, 1 minute. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Premanandi ki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shriyavadi Paschatya Desatarine. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Grantaraj ki jai, Bolo Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Madhava ki jai. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming tonight. And tonight we're going to hear that the subject, what is the goal of religious life and religious practices? We should understand this because there are many different understandings of what it is. But tonight we're going to explain why we're in this world and what is our real duty and what can we achieve by following the path of Sanatana Dharma. So according to Lord Krishna's, one of his statements in the Bhagavad Gita, he says to Arjuna, O conqueror of the foe, or conqueror of the enemies, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. So are you going to put that on the board, Prabhu? So Krishna says all of us who are born in this material world, we are bewildered, and we're born into delusion and bewildered by dualities that are created by material desires and frustration or hatred. So, this is a fact that all living entities are born in delusion. Delusion means we assume things to be true that are not true, and we act as if those things are true. And when we act, we're in a state of delusion. And our delusion is compounded by the dualities of life, such as love and hate, riches and poverty, heat and cold, happiness and distress, ecstasy and frustration, and so forth. So, the only solution to this is to strive in this life for self-realization, to understand who we actually are, where we came from, and what is our real nature, and how to go back to where we belong. So the fundamental duality and the fundamental illusion in life is the body. The material body is different than who we are. The material body is just like a car. You sit in the car and drive it. You are not the car, but you're the driver. In the same way, the body is like a machine. And the machine only comes alive when the soul is present. And when the soul is present, then you begin to drive this machine called the body. You drive it to Disneyland, you drive it to the temple, you drive it to a casino, you drive it to the movies, you drive it to a school, you say. So just like you drive a car, you're driving this body. The only problem is, if you buy, let's say, a Chevrolet, it looks like a Chevrolet for the whole time you have it. But when you're driving the body, it's constantly changing. It changes from a little embryo to a baby, to a little boy or girl, to a teenager, to a fully mature person, to a middle-aged person, to an old person, and finally the body falls apart and dies. So that's the difference between a car and a body. The body is always changing. Of course, if you're a bad driver and have a lot of accidents, your car will always change too, but it'll always look like a Chevrolet or a Ford or a Cadillac. But the body is always changing. Therefore, that's the proof that you're not this body. Because if you were the same thing as this body, you would not be changing. But you are always the same person witnessing the changes. So, if we understand that this is an illusory thing, and we understand at the moment of death, many times I perform funerals for families that lose a loved one. And the moment that is most, let's say, painful and bewildering, especially for, well, it's the same thing whether one is a Christian or a Hindu or a Jew or a Muslim. When in Hinduism, we'll take the body to the crematorium and put it into the oven, and they close the door, and that's it, last time you see the person. You'll never see them again. Or the Abrahamic religions, they'll take the body, put it in a box, and they'll bury it in the ground. You'll never see the person again. You see? So this is bewildering. Someone that you love, all of a sudden their body is not working anymore, and they're not there. When they die, everyone says he or she is gone. You see? So this idea that I am this body, it's a false idea. But what is real is I am the person witnessing all the changes of the body. And that consciousness is the symptom of the soul. The consciousness is not something that's created by putting chemicals together or matter together. It's something that is different. And because of that, you can see that the consciousness can create wonderful things, even without education. The consciousness of a person can express real love for a wife or husband or children or relatives or friends. And when the person dies, people will remember this person was a very good person. They were always cheerful. They always said uplifting things. They always had a good heart. They never lied. They never cheated. And we're going to miss them very much. See, a machine cannot do that. Of course, you can make a robot that imitates some aspects of a human being, but it's not going to be able to develop those intimate moments of love, of affection, of caring, of sympathy, of mourning, etc. The machine is not going to be able to do that. Here's an expert right here, works for Microsoft. Can the machines do that? No, they're not able to do that. You know, they can be programmed to do certain things, but to express genuine love and devotion for a person, they can't do that. So, once we understand that we're not this body, our spiritual life begins. What is spiritual life? It's on the level of the soul, on a spiritual level. Just like in the temple here, we're doing things that are spiritual. The bhajans that we sing are spiritual. The worship that we do is spiritual. The food that we cook and then offer to Krishna becomes spiritual. It's a material thing, but it becomes spiritual because we're offering it to the Lord. And if we offer sincerely, He offers it back as His prasadam, His mercy. And people who eat that sanctified food become sanctified also. You see? And people who chant the mantra Hare Krishna, the holy mantra, that is not different than Krishna, because Krishna is absolute, He's present in His name. A person who chants sincerely, they also become spiritualized. They become spiritualized by the food, by the prasadam, by the holy name, by the katha, or the explanation of who Krishna is and what His pastimes are with the gopis and with the residents of Vrindavan, or how He's present also in Vaikuntha as Narayana, or how He comes sometimes to this world as Lord Rama. These things are spiritualizing. They change the heart of a person from a hard-hearted person to a very soft, gentle, loving person. Okay, so this striving for self-realization is the goal of life. If we don't understand who we really are and what our eternal relationship with Krishna is, we're not a real person. And we see that. There are many people that are actors, and they make a lot of money, and they make movies, right? But in real life, most of them are very nasty people. So like Robert De Niro, he's a nasty guy. And he's very good when he plays gangsters, right? He just played a big gangster movie. He's probably going to win some kind of Oscar because he's just acting normally like a really nasty guy. And in real life, he's also a really nasty person, see? So we have to understand that to be a good person, one has to have some spiritual training. What is the beginning? The beginning is to understand that I'm not God. There is a supreme God. I can see it. I look around in nature. I can't do any of those things. I can't produce a cloud. A cloud, by the way, can carry over 1 million gallons of water. And it can move that million gallons of water hundreds and thousands of miles. Now, can you do? I can't even lift up a pail of water that with 5 gallons in it. You know, I have a difficult time picking that up. But God can evaporate water from the ocean, separate it from the salt, and then expand it out into a cloud. The reason the cloud floats in the air is because when the drops of water are pulverized, they become lighter than air, and the air pushes it up. It's a engineering miracle. And then, because of low pressure and high pressure, it produces wind that pushes the cloud with millions of pounds of water. Sometimes it goes 1,000 miles or 2,000 miles. If you fill a water truck up with water, you could maybe get a few thousand gallons, right? And if you move it, let's say from New York to San Francisco, it would cost you a few $1,000s, right? So here, God is producing a cloud with millions of pounds of water and moving it thousands of miles. Just imagine how much it would cost to do that with trucks and boats and things like that. But God does it effortlessly because He is the greatest scientist also. See? All science is simply discovering the science that's already there in nature. And it's all scientific. Everything is scientific in nature, right? How you digest food, it's a whole scientific process. Breaking the food down through enzymes and with probiotic bacterias, and the food is broken down into the simplest sugar, glucose, and that's what keeps you alive, that glucose, right? When you go to the hospital and you can't eat because you have maybe cancer of the throat or something, well, they put these tubes to keep you alive. What's in the tubes? There's water and there's glucose. It keeps you alive. And the same way, when you eat something, you could eat a cake or ice cream, eventually your body will break it down to the simplest sugar called glucose, and that's what feeds every cell and gives you energy and keeps you alive. This is all scientific, right? Now, no human being created that, but some human beings, they're biochemists and they're so forth, they can discover what's already there and what already was created. Just like Columbus discovered America. But wait a minute, America was there already. When they say he discovered America, it's because the people in Europe were in ignorance. They didn't realize that you could go west and find a different continent. They always thought you have to go east to get to India so you can rob it. That's what they were doing. They were robbing India, right? India was a rich country from antiquity. That's why Muslims have robbed it, the Christians have robbed it, and all kinds of people, they want to go to India. Even today, so many people go to India to buy things and sell it and get rich, you see. So this idea that science is going to save us, not really, because the greatest scientist has already created everything self-sufficient. This nature is already self-sufficient. If you don't interfere with it, it functions perfectly. Just like sometimes people say, oh, oil is you cannot replace it once it's used. That's not true. How did it get there in the first place? It's because of the carbon cycle. Who created the carbon cycle? Did Einstein create the carbon cycle? No. Krishna created it. The carbon cycle, the phosphorus cycle, the nitrogen cycle, the water cycle, all these cycles make nature self-sufficient. It's only when people start trying to tweak nature that you have problems. But if you leave nature alone and work with it, you won't have any problem at all. And that's why there's such a thing called permaculture and biodynamic growing, where you don't try and interfere with nature's natural cycles. You work with them. See? So you don't need fertilizers, you don't need pesticides, you don't need tractors, you don't need any of that stuff. If you learn how to work with nature, you can grow things without all those expensive things. And you get the healthiest food. Anyway, if you want to learn more about that, you come to my farm where I demonstrate those principles in Redmond. Anyway, here, what are we going to learn from approaching spiritual people? We're going to learn the process of self-realization. Now, what does Krishna say about that? He says, my devotee actually becomes self-realized by my unlimited causeless mercy, and thus, when freed from all doubts, he or she steadily progresses toward his or her destined abode, which is directly under the protection of my spiritual energy of unadulterated bliss. In other words, we all came from God, but we misused our free will. Every one of us has limited free will, and that limited free will is limited to two choices. Either we're going to follow God's instruction or we're not going to follow God's instruction. That's it. Both ways, Krishna knows what's going to happen to you. Just like the state of Washington issues you a license. And the state of Washington knows what's going to happen to you if you follow the rules of the route or if you don't follow the rules of the route. If you follow the rules of driving, you can go almost anywhere on the legal roads and no one's going to bother you, as long as you follow the rules, the speed limits and everything. But if you break them, then the state also knows what's going to happen to you. You'll eventually be arrested, and if you keep breaking the rules, they'll take your license away. If you keep breaking the rules, they'll put you in jail. If you keep breaking the rules in jail, eventually you end up in solitary confinement. They know exactly what's going to happen to you, either way. See? And the same way, God knows what's going to happen to us if we follow the rules or if we don't follow the rules. Now, I can tell you right now, including myself, we all broke the rules. That's why we're here. The fact that we have a body, a material body that's different than our soul, and this body is subjected to the laws of nature, is the proof that we broke the laws of God. That's the proof, because this body is a jail. And it is always, let's say, under the control of material nature. Like, for example, you're forced to eat. Then you're forced to go to the bathroom. Then you're forced to eat again. You're forced to work, and then you're forced to sleep, and then you're forced to wake up and work again and go back to sleep. You're forced to blink your eyes. They're forced to do everything in life by the laws of nature acting on your body. We are not free. We're always dependent on outside, let's say, forces. And the forces of nature are the strongest forces that are regulating how we act, how we think, how we see, etc. Like, for example, you didn't choose to have this body, but everybody has a particular set of eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, and organs, and so forth. Now, some of those things may be congenitally malfunctioning right from birth, or some of them can begin to malfunction due to bad choices that you make. We are not free at any point. We're always being controlled by nature, and nature is created by God. And our body is part of nature. And there are different rules and laws that we have to follow in order to minimize the suffering and maximize our ability for self-realization. If we ignore all those rules and regulations, then we're going to be in trouble. So there's two sets of laws that we have to follow. One are the laws of society, and the other is the laws established by God. We can't ignore either one of those set of laws. See? Just like, let's say you're a movie star, just like tonight they're having the awards for the movie stars, right? For the movies that they've done in Hollywood. And many of them live very lavish lives, eating all kinds of food and engaging in all kinds of illicit activities and drugs and sex and this and that. And you see that they get old, just like everybody else, and they die just like everybody else. Sometimes they get married and then divorced, and then married again and divorced, and then married again and divorced. Some of them get married and divorced, like Elizabeth Taylor, 14 times, right? And some of them cheat on their husband or cheat on their wife. And people like sort of glamour, they're bewildered by the glamour of their life, but actually they're just ordinary people, and some of them are very unhappy, like Marilyn Monroe committed suicide, and so many of these people, Ernest Hemingway committed suicide. We can go down the list. So many of them are very unhappy. So that's because you might follow the rules of society, but if you don't follow the rules of God, you get in trouble all the time. So how do we know what those rules are? Well, let's say you buy an iPhone, but with the iPhone is a booklet that tells you how to use it with maximum, let's say, efficiency, right? Or you buy a washing machine, there's a little instruction booklet. Or you buy a car, there's an instruction booklet with that also. when you have to change the oil, this thing, that thing. So, is there an instruction booklet or book by the manufacturer of your body and who is the origin of your soul of how you should navigate in life with this body, and what you should eat, how you should sleep, how you should do this, how you should do that? Yes, there is. It's called the Bhagavad Gita. It is the book of instruction of how to live successfully in life and how to attain liberation at the end of life from the cycle of birth and death. Now, if you are interested in maximizing your life to not only live peacefully, live happily, and live with a minimum of suffering, but also attain liberation at the moment of death and go back to the spiritual world in a spiritual body, you have to read Bhagavad Gita. There's no other book that gives such detailed information of how to do that. So, Krishna says that the ultimate perfectional goal of a living entity is to attain the spiritual world where there's unadulterated bliss. After giving up the present material body, the devotee goes to that transcendental abode and never comes back. So now, we need to know how to become a devotee of God and how to gradually attain this state of unadulterated bliss with a body that's not subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. So, actual self-realization means becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. The existence of a devotee implies the function of devotion and the object of devotion. So, the function of devotion is what you see here. We're chanting the name of God, we're hearing about God, we're offering food to God and receiving it back as His mercy. We are basically hearing about God's words, and that way we become enlightened that our soul is eternal, God is an eternal person, and we have a destiny that is not meant to continually stay in the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease, and keep repeating it over and over again in different bodies. We have a destiny to free ourselves from this entanglement in the material world. And it's very simple. I always teach kids, if you follow the rules, you don't have to worry about anything. And the IRS also teaches you, if you follow our rules, you don't have to worry about being investigated and penalized, right? And the government of the United States says if you follow the rules, you won't be arrested, you're not going to go to jail, and you're not going to have any problems, right? So when the President of the United States takes his oath, they say if you follow the rules, you'll be president for 4 years or 8 years or whatever, right? So if you follow the rules, it's easier to follow the rules than to break them. Because as soon as you break the rules, you get in trouble. And trouble never ends until you stop breaking the rules. So there are two sets of rules. There's the rules given by God and the rules given by the state. You have to follow them both. If you ignore one or the other, you're going to be in trouble. But the reward for following the rules of God is that you're eternally liberated from the cycle of birth and death. And if you follow the rules of the state, you'll stay in the, maybe you'll live a good life, but you'll stay in the cycle of birth and death. Good people and bad people both stay in the cycle of birth and death. Only a pure person can escape from that cycle. So, what is actual self-realization? Well, it means becoming purified first. Purified of what? Lust, anger, greed, illusion, envy, and madness or craziness. Right? These 6 things pervert the human soul and make us a slave of the laws of material nature, of birth, death, old age, and disease, and of miseries of this body, miseries caused by other bodies, miseries caused by cataclysmic events. And we're always in trouble. There are some periods of happiness, but a lot of periods of difficulty or boredom in life. However, if we follow the rules of society and follow the rules given to us by God, then not only we live a good life, but we become transcendental. We transcend the influence of the material nature by learning the art of work. There is an art of work. That art of work is directing all our activities under the tutelage of, or with the instructions of bona fide teachers, to please God. And we don't have to change anything we're doing. We just have to reorient the purpose for what we're doing. So, for example, and we explained this last week also, everybody eats once, twice, 3 times. Some people eat 10 times a day. If you offer your food first, and vegetarian food, no meat, fish, eggs, no liquor, no marijuana, no garlic, no onion, nothing that denatures, nothing that God doesn't accept as food. So that He only accepts what's called sattvic food, things that are in the mode of goodness, like vegetables and fruits and grains and milk and natural sugars, not refined sugar, but natural sugars. So, if you offer these things to God or Krishna, He accepts it and He offers it back as His mercy that purifies your body and mind. You are what you eat. So, if you're eating sanctified food, you become sanctified. If you're eating dead animals covered with gravy, with some mashed potatoes that are artificial mashed potatoes and a few frozen vegetables, you're going to be a meatball. Your brain is going to be scrambled with all the toxins and all the depleted vitamins and minerals in the food you're eating. So it's better to follow the rules of God. He wants us to live in the mode of goodness. The mode of goodness avoids rotten things. The mode of goodness is always dealing with fresh things, fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, and so forth. So, therefore, this self-realization means that we realize Krishna, or God, is the source of everything. We are also coming from Krishna. We're part and parcel of the Lord. We've made some bad choices, and instead of following the rules that God has given us, just like in the Bible, you have the allegorical story of Adam and Eve. Eve broke one of the laws. In fact, the only law that God said, don't eat from this one tree. There were thousands of trees in the Garden of Eden. He said, don't eat from this one tree. And if you don't do that, then you can eat from all the trees and you can live a peaceful life. No one will bother you. You'll be eternally happy. But what does the devil do? He convinces Eve that God is hiding something from her. And because of that, he's not letting her eat from that one tree. And if you eat from that one tree, that forbidden fruit, then you'll have a greater pleasure than you've ever felt before. And she accepts that and eats from that tree, the forbidden fruit, and immediately she feels shame and guilt. Now, misery likes company, so then she convinces her husband to do it also. And now they're both thrown out of the Garden of Eden. It's just like going to a casino and hoping to win. And when you lose, you ask for your money back because you say, that's all I gained this month and I got to feed my kids. What do? They call the police and they throw you out, you see. So the same thing happened to Adam and Eve. They went there, they had everything they wanted. They were not missing anything. God supplied everything to them. And he said, just don't do this one thing. So what do? They do the one thing he says don't do. You see, how stupid can you be, right? But there's no limit to how stupid people can be when they decide that they can get away with breaking rules. Just like I know a gentleman, he was cheating on his wife. And one day someone asked him, he said, why did you do that? You have such a nice wife. She's like an angel. She always does anything to please you. Why did you do such a stupid thing? He said, I thought I could get away with it. Well, believe me, no one can get away with anything. Why is that? Because God is the witness of everything we do. You might not know that, but you should learn it today. Krishna is in the heart of every living entity. He witnesses everything we do, everything we think, every desire we have, every action that we perform. So a thief always goes out at night, and when he hopes that people are sleeping, and he does his thievery. Or he'll look around, if he doesn't see anyone, he'll steal something, right? But there's always a witness. This is the first thing you have to teach yourself and teach your kids. There's always a witness to whatever we do. There's no such thing as no witness. Therefore, we're going to be caught when we break the rules of God, or even if we break the rules of society, we're eventually going to be caught. Just like my wife one day was driving very fast at 4 o'clock in the morning to the LAX, the airport in Los Angeles, to pick someone else. And she went through a red light, speeding. But she saw this big flash of light, and she was not sure what it was. It happened so fast, and she went so fast, she didn't see what it was. Well, 1 month later, she received a letter from the state of California, and when she opened it up, there was a picture of herself with a surprised look on her face in the car. When she went through the light, it took a picture of her, It was a nice picture. She had this very frightened look on her face, because this flash of light. It was a camera, and was a camera that took her picture, and she had to pay $400. It was an expensive camera, right? So this was 4 o'clock in the morning, where there was no traffic at all and no one on the streets, right? And still she got caught. So we should understand, at every moment, everything we're thinking, everything we're desiring, everything we're doing is being witnessed by God himself as the super soul, Paramatma in the heart. So we can't get away with anything. So, just like one time I was in a car, and this gentleman was driving me. His daughter was in the back. She was a teenager. And we were talking back and forth. And I asked the daughter a question. I said, what would you think if your dad was standing next to you all the time? And she got a little bit, intimidated by the question. She said, what did you say? I said, what if your dad was standing next to you everywhere, when you're in school, when you're in a sleepover, when you're out on a date? What would you do? She said, I'd be really freaked out. I said, why? Well, I wouldn't be able to do what I want to do, if he's standing next to me all the time. Well, you see? But yet, God is standing next to us all the time. No, he's not standing next to us. He's in our heart, witnessing everything we do. So this is the number one thing that civilizes people, when they realize that there is no question of secrecy. You can lock the door to your bedroom at night, turn off the lights, put down all the curtains and things. Now nobody is looking. I'm sorry to tell you this, but God is watching everything you do. You cannot get away from it. So, that's a very sobering thought. Just like one time I was in Morocco, in a small town called Marrakesh, and I was dressed like a devotee. I was probably the only non-Muslim in that town. It's a small town. And I was walking down the street, and Morocco is a nice place. They don't have like evergreen trees or deciduous trees. They only have fruit trees. So you walk down the street, and they're all orange trees. If you want, you can pick an orange off the tree and eat it. It's almost like a Vedic original town, because in the Vedic villages also they didn't plant these non-fruit bearing trees. They always planted fruit bearing trees. Anyway, so this one boy, I don't think he was more than 12 years old. He was walking down the street smoking a cigarette. So I stopped him. I said, "Ahlan wa sahlan." I said, "Kifak inti? What are you doing?" He said, well, "Who are you?" In Arabic to me. I said, "I'm like your father." He said, "You're not my father." I said, "I'm old enough to be your father." I said, "What are you doing? Why are you smoking that cigarette?" He said, "Why do I have to tell you anything? Who are you anyway?" I said, "Look, I'm like your father. Why are you smoking that cigarette?" He said, "I'm not going to tell you why I'm smoking this cigarette." He was a smart little kid. I said, do you smoke the cigarette when you go to the mosque? He said, no, I don't smoke cigarette in the mosque. I said, why not? He said, because Allah is there. I said, but Allah is here also. He's not only in the mosque, Allah is everywhere. He looked at me and he thought for a minute and he dropped the cigarette. You see. So, this is education. If you don't smoke the cigarette in the mosque, why would you smoke it outside? Because Allah is there, but Allah is everywhere. It's not just in the mosque, right? So, this is the number one thing we should learn ourselves, and the number one thing we should teach our kids. There's no such thing as privacy. God is with us all the time as a witness. So when we understand that, we become civilized. We become a person who is going to act very judiciously. Just like when I first got my first car when I was 16, I got an Oldsmobile convertible that had, that you put your foot on the gas pedal, and the gas dial went down like this. It had like 16 cylinders. It was a very fast, powerful car, and in like 6 months, I got 12 tickets. And one day, someone knocked on our door. I opened the door. And it was a policeman. He said, "Are you so and so?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Give me your license." I said, "What for?" I said, "We're taking it away from you." So I couldn't say anything. So I got my license. I gave it to him. He said, "Thank you very much." I said, "You're not going to see a license now for 3 years. And if you drive the car, you might go to jail." He said, "Just be real careful." So that taught me a lesson. I didn't get my license back for 3 years. So when I got my license back, do you think I speeded with my car? No way. I followed the speed limit everywhere I went. Because then I realized driving is not a privilege. It is a gift by the government. And if you don't follow the rules, they take it away from you, and they fine you. Also, I had to pay like $1,000 in fines. So that taught me a lesson to be very careful. Right? So if we understand tonight that God is the witness of everything we do, we begin the process of self-realization. And because we become civilized, we know that we can't get away with anything, that there's always going to be a witness. So therefore, this self-realization means that we learn not only that God is in our heart as the witness, but we all come from God, and we're all part and parcel of God. He is an eternal person, we are eternal persons. We are eternally infinitesimal, He's eternally infinite. But we have an intimate relation. He's infinite. But we have an intimate relationship with Him because He's maintaining us. You don't understand how you're digesting food when you go to sleep at night, but yet your heart is beating, yet the enzymes are working, yet the probiotic bacteria are working, and all your organs are working. How come that's going on like that when you're not even conscious of it? Because God and His agents, the devas, are making those things work. As long as we follow the rules. As soon as we break the rules, we start smoking cigarettes and drinking beer and staying up late on the computer and waking up late and not bathing all the time and not doing this and not doing that. Then those organs start falling apart. And we get sick, and eventually we end up with cancer or whatever, and it's horrible. So therefore, let's learn not only the rules of the state, let's learn what God's rules are. And they are explained explicitly in the Bhagavad Gita. What we should eat, how to regulate our life, going to sleep early, waking up early, chanting the name of God, hearing the message of Bhagavad Gita. Then our life changes. And we're on the fast track to going back to Godhead. So we'll continue this subject next week. It is very important. There are a lot more interesting things to discuss about self-realization, understanding who you really are and your relationship with Krishna, and how acting in that relationship, eventually you develop pure love for Krishna, and then you go back to Godhead. And you can save not only yourself, your family members, or like Prabhupada, our Guru Deva, has done, hundreds and thousands and millions of people. That's how powerful this lifestyle is and how beneficial it is, not only to yourself and your family, but it could be for hundreds and thousands and millions of other people. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask? Any questions? There has to be one question. All spiritual life is based on questions and answers. Just like Bhagavad Gita is all questions and answers. If there's ever been a question you never were able to get a proper answer to, apart from what the stock market is going to do Monday, I can't answer that question. But any other question about life, about the purpose of life, ask one question. Go ahead, Pranay, ask a question. You don't have any questions? Okay. You have any questions? No? Okay. Maybe your dad has a question.
Maharaj, you said that you should follow the rules, the laws of the state and the laws of the God.
Do you follow the rules in Microsoft where you work?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. What would happen if you didn't follow the rules? Let's say you're doing some secret project, right? And you reveal the secret to Amazon. What would happen to you? You'd be thrown out right away. They wouldn't even listen to what you say, what your excuse is. They would throw you out right away. Okay. Go ahead.
So why is it difficult for individuals to follow the rules of the God?
It's called the false ego. False identification of oneself. Just like that gentleman I told you who was cheating on his wife. When he was asked, why did you do it? He said, I thought I could get away with it. You see? As soon as you start thinking like that, you know, like let's say you cheat on your IRS and your income taxes, and then you get caught, and an inspector says, why did you do this? What would you say? I thought I could get away with it. Right? You can't get away with anything. Not with material laws and not with spiritual laws. You can't get away. You'll eventually get caught. Right? If you're a real big cheater, then you'll get, 10 most wanted persons in the United States. And they always get caught. All 10 of them get caught over time. Okay, that's one question. No more questions. Hare Krishna. Now we have our arti. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nisai go Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nisai go Hari Bol, Nisai go Hari Bol, Hari Bol, go Hari Bol, Nisai go Hari Bol. Jayo, Jaya Tora Chande, Arati Ke Soba. Jayo, Jaya Tora Chande, Arati Ke Soba. Jagamana loba, janani katabane. Jagamana loba, jayo. Jaya Gora Chande, Arati Ke Soba. Shini Vasachakradara Nikateya Kaita Shini Vasachakradara Jayo Jaya Gaura Jaya Arati Ke Soba Adi Adhikari Shamaradulaya. Sanjaya Mukunda Basu Gosadidaya. Sanjaya Mukunda Basu Gosadidaya. Jayo Jaya Gora Chande Haruti Keso. Baba Jana Shagamana Loba Jana Shagamana Loba Kiba Shankar Baje Kanta Baje Karatala. Madhura Mridanga Baje Paramarasala. Madhura Mridanga Baje Paramarasala. Shankha Baje Shankha Baje Madhur 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 Baje. Shankha Baje Shankha Baje Madhur 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 Baje. Shankha Baje Shankha Baje Madhur Madhur Baje. Shankha Baje Shankha Baje Madhur 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 Baje. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Bolo Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Pralada Lada Dayine Pralada Lada Dayine Hiranya Kashipur Bhakshaya Hiranya Kashipur Bhakshaya Shilatam Kala Kala Ye Shilatam Kala Kala Ye Eto Nishinga Parato Nishinga Eto Nishinga Parato Nishinga Yato Yato Yamitato Nishinga Yato Yato Yamitato Nishinga Bayin Nishinga Idaye Nishinga Bayin Nishinga Idaye Nishinga Narashinamadim Saranam Prabhade Narashinamadim Saranam Prabhade Tavakara Kamala Pare Nakam Adhuta Singam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringham Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadesha Hare Jaya Jagadesha Hare Jaya Jagadesha Hare Tavadara Kamala Pare Nakam Adhuta Singam Jalita Hiranyakashipu Anubrinam Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadesha Hare Jaya Jagadesha Hare Jaya Jagadesha Hare Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadesha Hare Jaya Jagadesha Hare Jaya Jagadesha Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hari Bol, Gora Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol. Nitai Gora Premanande Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajika Chastata Satarashi Shishimada's Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Harivilas Ki Jai. Prem Shikoho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Gangamaya Ki Jai. Jamunamaya Ki Jai. Samavela Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtana Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the Sammal devotees. All glories to the Sammal devotees. All glories to the Sammal devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Patita Pavana Ki Jai. So tonight we want to thank Hari Desikan on the occasion of his birthday. So Hari must be here, I hope. And we want to thank also Bharat. So we have two sponsors tonight, Hari Desikan on birthday and Bharat. And we have a couple of announcements to make. If you would like to sponsor one of our cows at our farm in Auburn, it costs $100 a month to feed the cow, or about $1,000 a year. And it's a great service to do. Our cows are wonderful, very affectionate cows, and we keep them very healthy. So if you would like to sponsor a cow for 1 month, it's $100. Also, if you would like to sponsor our free vegetarian food truck that goes out every Saturday and feeds about 200 to 300 people, depending on the Saturday, depending somewhat on the weather. Every Saturday night we go to 50th and University Way in the U District, and we feed between 200 to 300 people. You can sponsor a free vegetarian evening for the food truck. It costs $251, approximately $1 a person, which is a deal. You go to any restaurant in Seattle, it costs you $50. We're feeding, and they get a 6-course meal, all fresh food. We never serve anything left over from the temple. Everything is freshly made, and fresh rotis. So on March 21st is our Holy Festival of Colors at Marymore Park. March 21st. Keep that. That's actually the first day of spring also. So you're all welcome to come. Our Holy Festival of Colors. And on May 30th, this is a new festival. We've never done it before. It's called Spring Festival at Sammamish State Park. And May 30th, again, it's a Saturday. And it's going to be, it'll be right up there with Ananda Mela. If not this year, in the next 2 or 3 years. Because it's going to be a major festival with the full backing of the state of Washington. Sammamish State Park is managed by the state of Washington, and they are helping us put on this festival in a big way. And it's going to be a very interactive festival, a lot of interesting things, new things that you haven't seen before. One of our festivals is going to take place. And on June 20th and 21st, on 2 days, is our next Vegetarian Vegan Raw Food Festival at the Redmond Downtown Park, June 20th and 21st. And on the 24th of February to March 4th, we have the visit of His Grace Amarendra Prabhu, and he's going to be speaking about the pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. And that is February 24th to March 4th. March 8th is our Gaur Purnima Festival, and beginning on the 8th, and that's Saturday of that weekend. Is it a weekend? We're going to have a Maha Harinam Sankirtan. We're expecting at least 300 devotees to come out and help us chant the holy names and distribute burritos. Hey, stop running around like that, please. Stop. So you're all welcome to come. It's going to be a major Harinam Sankirtan festival, beginning at Westlake Park, going down to Pike Place Market. March 8th is a Sunday. Okay, so March 7th, yes, Saturday, we will have a Maha Harinam Sankirtan. Please come out. We want at least 300 people. Every year we've had 250. This year we want 300 people to come out with us and chant and dance. And on May 1st, is it May 1st, Sri Ram Navami? That late? But is that Sri Ram Navami? They wrote it down. Huh? Okay, May 1st is Sri Ram Navami, and we're going to celebrate that here. So those are our announcements. It's Hari Desakan. is here, or Bharat. It's their birthday tonight. Hare Krishna. We're want to fix this microphone for?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare